Radio. News, opinion, and a little irreverence from both sides of the 49th parallel. This is Americanuck Radio with Mike Phillip.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Americanuck Radio. This is your host Mike Phillip. We've got Super Don down in Louisiana, Professor Mike in Ottawa, and it's going to be a great show. We've got Dabu7 of YouTube fame going to be talking about the Hanford nuclear disaster. Or is there one? We'll find out. The Menzoid over at the Rebel just put out a story about how British inmates in prisons figure that they should have custom-made sex bots, which will cut down on mischief. And there's this new game online called the Blue Whale game. Doesn't sound like much of a game to me. Sounds kind of serious, but we live in a weird world. CNN is surely going to win a Pulitzer because they've just come out with a report that is definitely going to bring down the Trump administration. In the second hour, we got Mike D. out of Kingston, Ontario, going to be talking about everybody's favorite hairdo in the world, Justin Trudeau, and all kinds of great stuff on the show ahead today. Don't go away. If you want to join the conversation, 855-660-4261 is the call-in line. Let's launch this show.
Light it up, let's get this show on the road.
Hey, a freak show. Well, I guess we better get on with it.
Come on, I haven't got all day.
What are we waiting for? Let's go.
This is Americanuck Radio.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired. There's even a chance, quite small of course, that you may like it.
So there you go. There's a small chance that you might like it. Take your pick. So like I said earlier, the Menzoid over at the Rebel.media, big fan of their work, just came out with this report, and I'm going to let you listen and decide for yourself.
I think it's pretty much a given that when someone's sentenced to jail for committing a crime, it's a foregone conclusion that the offender must surrender certain liberties, the principal one being freedom, of course. That's the very concept of jail. It's a real-life penalty box in which you are temporarily removed from society. And as Beretta would say, if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime.
Well, I guess, there's different levels of crime. There's certain things that people go to jail for that I don't know if they really should be in jail. It's a whole other conversation of its own. The courts might not agree with me, and at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter, right, Don?
Absolutely. We hear about this kind of stuff all the time. Not that long ago, we were talking about a story where a guy went to jail for like 15 years because he had a joint, Right,
and then there's that whole 3 strikes you're out thing.
Right.
In California,
like
a guy went to jail for, life for stealing a block of cheese. Anyways, That has nothing to do with this story, though. Let's go on with the Menzoid here.
So what does one make of a proposal by Jack Suarez, a criminal who's serving a 17-year prison sentence after he was found to be the managing director of a drug gang that imported heroin and cocaine to the UK. You see, after spending about 5 years in an English crowbar hotel, Suarez claims he's come up with a progressive idea that will surely put an end to prison mischief, as he calls it.
All right, so this guy's got an idea for getting rid of mischief in prison.
Quick point.
Right.
What kind of a drug gang has somebody who's called the managing director?
I would guess MI6 or the CIA.
I am the managing director of of the drug gang.
Here's my card.
What? A managing director? Okay, anyway.
Managing director of a drug gang. But let's go on with this report here.
Namely, his whiz-bang concept is that since UK prisons don't allow conjugal visits, prisoners should be issued sex dolls.
There's your mischief right there. So this is what he's getting back to. It's probably to prevent prison rape, right? What's your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, you know what? My thoughts on it is, well, realistically speaking, the majority of rape that Canada and the United States happens in prisons. So,
yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely a fact, and so maybe, possibly, maybe it's a good idea. Let's go on, shall we?
And just to crank up the cringe factor, Suarez doesn't want prisons to issue run-of-the-mill, off-the-shelf sex dolls. No, he wants custom jobs for the convicts.
Oh, here we go.
In other words, the idea would be that a prisoner would submit a photo of a loved one so that the sex doll manufacturer could incorporate that person's specific facial features onto the doll.
That's not creepy at all. So I think that we could actually avoid a lot of prison time in the first place if you're just issued a sex bot when you're turned teenager, right? Because if we're looking to eliminate mischief, Don, mischief is the reason people go to prison in the first place. Am I correct in my thinking?
Well, as you pointed out before, in most cases, probably yes. So the question is, do you get punished for the mischief in prison, or do we give you a sex doll so you will be a good boy? I don't know. That's on the one hand, about heading it off at the pass. Prison rate, that might be a good thing, but I just don't. I don't know.
And you could argue that a lot of people make money off of the prison industrial complex, but all they would have to do is swing around and invest into sex robots, right?
This is true.
Everybody wins, you know what I'm saying?
But as Suarez notes, quote, the trouble is our prisons are full of young men filled with testosterone who would give their right arm for a bit of passion. The frustration of this situation makes these young men restless and wanting to cause mischief, end quote.
See? There it is again. Mischief. And it's high time that we cut back on the amount of mischief going on in society. It's a big problem. Mischief. Who even says that anymore?
Mischief. Shenanigans.
Only the bloody British, I'll tell you.
But with a sex doll as a bunkmate, prison could become more pleasant, even though prison isn't really supposed to be pleasant. That's the whole idea behind prison. Prison is supposed to be an unpleasant place, a place you should try your best to avoid. Even so, Suarez notes that a convict and his sex doll could, quote, enjoy date nights, watch the soaps together, listen to music, everything that you would normally do with your partner, end quote.
So there you have it. Date night with, your Mun robot, or, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, my goodness. No, hold on a second. These guys are in prison.
Right.
I didn't
know they had managing director of the heroin trade.
Date night?
Yeah, well, they have date night in jail.
Yeah, unofficially, I guess. But
I'm guessing. I don't know. Have you ever been in jail, Don?
Check it out, dude. I mean, let's in the real world here, if we're thinking about this, all right. There are some people that think that people that are in prison shouldn't even be allowed to have like TV or luxuries. That you typically wouldn't think that would be present in prison. Now, I don't really care too much about that. I think that's fine. Watch TV, whatever. But a sex doll, I think, is taking it way too far.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, come on.
Well, let's compromise here. How about just something cheap like a blow-up doll? Maybe not necessarily a custom robot, I'm guessing. I don't know. But I think that there could come a time when these robots are so well done that you wouldn't know the difference, right? And if we could actually get them to procreate, that would be something to look at. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they play God all the time anyways, so why not with this? Now, there is a warning from the future about where this could go from the Space Pope. We're going to get back into that after this segment, and then we're going to talk to Dabu 7 about the Hanford nuclear crisis. We'll be back on Americanuck Radio after this.
Syntec Global XFT is a breakthrough product trusted around the world for over 20 years. Syntec Global XFT will maximize engine life and fuel economy, maximize horsepower and performance, and minimize emissions. XFT packs an incredible amount of benefits into one small concentrated dose and comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That's Syntec Global XFT. Put it to the test.
Head over to AmericanuckRadio.com now to get your extreme fuel treatment. That's AmericanuckRadio.com.
I said hello, Dolly, well, what do you know? Dolly, it's so nice to have you back where you belong.
Hello, Dolly. Before the break, we were covering a video that Dave the Menzoid Menzies put out on the Rebel.media talking about British prisoners figure that they should be given a mandatory sex robot that looks like their significant other so that they can cuddle and watch a movie together, maybe, catch a sunrise through that little tiny window with the bars in it, and it will cut back on mischief. But I would like to point out that there are consequences to everything. There's always going to be consequences. Now, the Space Pope has put out a warning, and I think you all need to hear it.
Ordinary human dating. It's enjoyable, and it serves an important purpose. But when a human dates an artificial mate, there is no purpose, only enjoyment. And that leads to tragedy.
Neato! A Marilyn Monroe bot!
Ooh, you're a real dreamboat.
Billy every teen.
Harmless fun? Let's see what happens next.
Billy, do you want to walk your dog?
No thanks, Mom. I'd rather make out with my Monroe bot.
Billy, do you want to get a paper route and earn some extra cash?
No thanks, Dad. I'd rather make out with my Monroe bot.
Billy, do you want to come over tonight? We can make out together.
Gee, Mavis, your house is across the street. That's an awfully long way to go for making out.
Did you notice what went wrong in that scene? Ordinarily, Billy would work hard to make money with his paper route. Then he'd use the money to buy dinner for Mavis, thus earning a slim chance to perform the reproductive act. But in a world where teens can date robots, why should he bother? Why should anyone bother? Let's take a look at Billy's Planet a year later. Where are all the football stars? And where are the biochemists? They're trapped in the soft, vice-like grip of robot lips. All civilization was just an effort to impress the opposite sex. And sometimes the same sex. Now, let's skip forward 80 years into the future. Where's Billy?
Where's Billy?
Farewell! The next day, Billy's planet was destroyed by aliens. Have you guessed the name of Billy's planet? It was Earth. Don't date robots!
Brought to you by Space Pope.
Like I said, there's always going to be consequences to actions. Now, Billy didn't know it when he ordered up his Marilyn Monroe bot, but it eventually led to the destruction of the species. I think they have a fair point, wouldn't you say, Dawn? I mean, if you didn't have to mess around with talking to women, you could just if you could just have a robot that did anything you said, and it was like a little hottie, then why bother?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a real issue. I mean, it's funny in listening to that, but these things are in production. I mean, these things are being worked on. You see it every once in a while. It pops up in the news where, the latest one is they are actually creating ones that will talk to people and have some form of artificial intelligence where they can carry on communications. They can remember things that you say, and it's stuff like that. A lot of it seems to be coming out of Japan for some reason. I don't know what it is with the Japanese guys, but it is a real deal. And I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you can create what you would see as your perfect partner in the form of a robot, listen, that robot's not going to procreate. So, are we looking at the extinction of man at some time, or at least if nothing else? Because I don't think everybody's going to go for that. But if a substantial number of people in the population decide they'd rather do it with a robot than do it with a human, you're going to see the numbers of people decreasing.
Right. Your dog is barking, hey?
Yeah, she has an opinion too. Robot dog, bark.
Well, and that's where it could go, right? What about the dogs? But I think you're right. And I'm glad you pointed out that this is a coming out of Japan, because Japan is such a weird society, and they're not replacing their birth rate. I mean, they're not. I mean, look at any study. Kind of like the rest of Canada, except for Alberta. But, I mean, what has Japan given us? The Toyota, the sex robot, and tentacle porn, right? And
Ginsu knives, yeah.
That's right. If you're hungry, call the Lido. So, I'm a big fan of sushi, actually, but I don't know if we're supposed to eat it anymore because of all this Fukushima radiation going on. Is that even happening anymore? Nobody even talks about it.
It's like anything else. I mean, it comes up, you get the official story, then you find out what really happened like a year later, and by then you've already been irradiated and been eating it and everything, and so you're just kind of screwed. It's just the end of the world. But I don't know that it's... You know what? Last time I checked, let me take that back. It was just a matter of months ago. There was another story that came out that was talking about how there was still some leaks going on, and every time the wind blows right around Fukushima, it's something that gets brought back up, because all it would take is just another earthquake, another tsunami, and that thing would be done.
Yeah.
It'd be gone in history.
Right. You know what's more important than that, though?
What's that?
What's happening tomorrow? And I would tell you, but you can't say Mother's Day anymore. So Canadian schools are banning Mother's Day projects. I'm not joking.
I didn't hear about this. Are you serious?
How does this shock you? No, it's literally happening. Yeah. They are banning instead. Yeah, they're banning Mother's Day activities like making cards or doilies or, stuff that you worked for a half an hour on and you gave it to your mom when you were a kid and she started crying, And so, you can't say Mother's Day.
Well, what is it then?
It would be April, May the 14th.
It's just another day. Okay.
Just another day, man. You can't say mother anymore. And I refuse to go along with that line of thinking. I am going to buy my mother a card, and then I'll talk to her a year later. I swear.
I was just thinking, do they have like a new pronoun? So now you put just a Z in front of it now?
Zuzzer? I don't know. Mike and Super Don on Americanuck Radio. Coming up, we're going to talk about the disaster at Hanford with Dabu 7. Stick it around. We'll be right back.
huge crews monitoring the site 24/7. Now, at first, we were told it was just a dip in the ground, then that it was the size of a kiddie pool. Hours after that, it grew to the size of a large swimming pool. Now, overnight, we were told that the hole itself does have radiation, but so far, it's not spreading.
A hole with radiation that is not spreading. What the Fuka Chernobyl is going on in Washington State? Joining us, we've got Dabu7. Great YouTube channel. Everybody go to your laptop right now. Get on YouTube and subscribe to Dabu77. Dabu, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I'm a fan of your work. I mean, I like your perspective on things. I don't agree with you on everything, but when I find somebody that I agree with too much, I get alarm bells going off. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you have been putting out a few videos, and your coverage on what's going on at HANFORD Nuclear Storage Facility has been better than what I've found. And you know, there's not much out there. This is kind of hush-hush. First of all, get into what is HANFORD? What is this facility used for? And what led you to start reporting on it in the first place? Dabu7, go.
Well, it's not the first time I've reported on it, unfortunately. It's got a history of maybe being one of the worst sites, if not the worst site, in terms of contamination in the country. We have several different sites that got issues, but this one, for a long time, at this facility, they were producing plutonium for the bombs used in World War II. And what they did is they took the equipment that was highly radiated that they were using to move this stuff and process it and a few other things, and they put them in these tunnels. This was back in the 60s. And then they sealed them off thinking that everything would be fine. Well, somewhere along the lines, we've had something that's caused this collapse, and I pulled up the schematics. I was looking into the background of how the tunnel was made, what it was made out of, and I seen that there was supposed to be a metal lining that should have been on the roof of this. And
like lead?
When looking at the collapse, it just looks like what they're saying, it was just wood, and the wood rotted and gave way. But the site, the Purex facility, known for producing that plutonium, and then they have tanks as well. They have big storage tanks where they keep all this stuff. Those tanks have an outer shell. That outer shell is supposed to hold anything that leaks. And for a long time, those outer shells have been leaking themselves into the earth, into the Columbia River. And it's been a known problem for some time. But it seems to me anytime I've ever reported on anything in terms of radiation, it's swept under the rug big time. It's like a big blackout.
Well, and there's a lot to report on there. I mean, most of our nuclear power plants in North America, weren't they supposed to be decommissioned like 30 years ago, and they just keep using them?
Good point, yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, okay, so if you believe mainstream history, we had to have the bomb, otherwise the Nazis would have won, or the Ruskies would have won. So, okay, we make these bombs, these nuclear ICBMs, and it's intended to protect us, if you believe the official line. Well, bada bing, bada boom, Pandora's box is open, and we're radiating ourselves. Good job, guys. But don't worry, we paid top dollar. I'm talking about the citizens of North America. We paid for that. So, and it's the same thing. But I mean, what's your opinion on nuclear power? I mean, we have enough coal in North America to power the whole continent for, 1,000 years? I mean, Albert Einstein once said that's a hell of a way to boil water.
There's so many other problems that come with the nuclear issue. Like you said, Fukushima. There was another one in New Mexico at the WIPP facility just a few years back. Big cover-up, similar situation. This is a storage facility underground where they're storing big tanks of stuff that has radiation. And the roof collapsed, caused massive amounts of radiation. and there was a complete blackout. When they showed the newsroom where the crews would normally show up and gather to report on it, it was absolutely empty. And they just kept a lid on it. And, you know, what I've learned is you're very hard-pressed to get the truth out of these events. What I caught was a radio transmission on the ground between the guys responding to this hole that had admitted that there was high levels of radiation escaping from this and that they were working to get the calculation. Next thing we know, the next update was telling us everything's A-OK.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's crazy, and you know, you almost gotta go to Russian news to figure out what's going on with the nuke situation in the United States. Did you ever in your life, when you were a kid, practicing to get under your desk in case the Reds nuked us, did you ever think that this would be the situation?
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate that a lot of the news out there is controlled by the establishment, so to speak, and they like to censor those that speak truth. It's just a reality of what's going on, and for people that really want to know the truth, they have to do some digging and keep on searching. You're not going to find it on the TV in the evening news, I'll tell you that.
No, that's just it. And that's why guys like you are so popular on YouTube, because people are, they smell the BS and they want to get the truth. I mean, I'll give you a good example. This is something that occurred to me before. Do you remember when Fox, CNN, MSNBC, the alphabet, up here in Canada, we've got Global, CBC, they all speak the same talking points. Remember when they were talking about if Osama bin Laden set off a dirty bomb over Washington, D.C., it would be uninhabitable for so many years? And then I thought to myself, how many nukes have we set off in the Nevada desert right outside of Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? And everybody's getting cancer.
And that's highly contaminated. I had a woman reach out to me that's from the area up there in Washington, and she says that there's one thing that I see in people that we know, family, friends, that are in that area of Spokane and the surrounding area. One common theme with all of them is thyroid cancer.
Yeah.
And they're like, explain that. Explain, that spike in thyroid cancer and the situation happening at Hanford. And it's, when I was I went to Area 51 a couple years ago, right out there in the deserts of Nevada, where they did a lot of the testing, and climbed to the top of Tikaboo. And when I was out there, we took radiation readings. And to my amazement, the little alien, it's a little like trailer park, as close as you can get to Area 51. We stayed there, and it kind of dawned on me, before anybody touches the water, let's check the water. And sure enough, the water coming up out of the ground in that area was highly radiated, or above normal levels, and sometimes well above. And that's what you get out there. Like you said, with all that testing, there is repercussions.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to a friend of mine in Utah, and he just flat out said to me, everybody gets cancer. It's a fact of life. We all get cancer. Also, I've had people tell me that certain parts of that area, if you go hunting, you'll come across deer that will have one antler that's all like corkscrewy. And there's all, I had a guy tell me that. And
there's some weird phenomena like mutant stuff from the radiation.
Yeah, exactly. And he was actually a Mormon that came to my door to give me the good news, and I started talking about, hey, you live near the nuke testing site, right? So I totally diverted him. But I think we've got a clip with some of that radio traffic. Let's give that a play. Oh, I hear the music. That means we're out of time. Mike and Super Don on Americanuck Radio. We've got Dabu 7. Stick around, everybody. We'll be right back after this.
Syntec Syntec Global XFT is a breakthrough product trusted around the world for over 20 years. Syntec Global XFT will maximize engine life and fuel economy, maximize horsepower and performance, and minimize emissions. XFT packs an incredible amount of benefits into one small concentrated dose and comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That's Syntec Global XFT. Put it to the test.
Head over to AmericanuckRadio.com now to get your extreme fuel treatment. That's AmericanuckRadio.com.
Hundreds of workers at the Hanford nuclear site, 200 miles from Seattle, forced to take cover after a portion of a tunnel collapsed where radioactive materials are stored.
So, Dabu, you were talking about the radio traffic, and did you notice in that report they cut it off right at the point where he was going to talk about a large amount of radiation being spilled into the atmosphere? That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. So we all know that you've got to take your iodine. People should be taking iodine anyways. I mean, it's an essential mineral among 60 other ones that you need to live. And we've covered that ad nauseum on this show and on the Dr. Glidden show and Tactical Health podcast. So
always good to have a little bit in your bug-out bag, just in case.
Yeah, that's just it, right? And but like I'm the kind of guy that I take my supplements every day. So I mean, to start taking iodine after a nuclear accident, I just do anyways, right? So it's kind of par for the course for a guy like me.
Right.
So that's what you do. Let's talk about radiation poisoning. If you live in an area that is being inundated with radiation, Professor Mike, what's going on there? And I mean, we all know you got to protect your thyroid with iodine, but give us a breakdown on what happens when somebody gets radiation poisoning, would you?
Yeah, so basically the way that radiation works, ionizing radiation, you have to understand the basic the basic makeup of matter. Matter is made out of atoms and molecules, and there's three primary particles. They're known as electrons, protons, and neutrons. And the nucleus is what contains the protons and the neutrons, and the electrons kind of hover around matter. Okay, so this is anything that's on Earth, okay, whether it's skin cells or plants, walls, whatever. So basically, the way that the radiation works is, well, do you want me to get really scientific, or do you want me to just? I'll try and simplify it. So basically, what happens is it distorts the structure and the makeup of the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons, and it, in many cases, can also actually destroy the nucleus, which is the center of any cell or any matter. Okay, so essentially it can make, well, if we're going to talk about, let's say, your skin cells or your DNA or your blood, it can essentially make your blood either alter or even burst from the inside out. Okay, it'll almost implode in many cases. So basically your DNA will get destroyed, and ionizing radiation, the biggest problem with it when it comes to human beings and why a lot of these alterations happen is it directly impacts your thyroid. Okay, not only does it screw up your bone marrow and things like that, but it also disrupts your thyroid. And what happens is your thyroid has issues differentiating between different kinds of radiation, like radioactive impacts on it. It has issues differentiating. So that's where the iodine comes in. What happens is the iodine, especially if you're going to be using, iodine that's really, really good against radiation, the iodine will help the thyroid, quote unquote, be full. Thus, the thyroid won't be able to take in any extra radiation. So it kind of works like a blocker. It doesn't necessarily have enough to block all radiation, but it has enough to block the majority of it. So your body won't have the ability to actually create all these altered cells. The DNA and the RNA, on the other hand, will still be impacted from it. So it's kind of like the iodine works as a buffer against the radiation. It's not necessarily a quote-unquote cure, but it can work kind of like sunblock.
Right,
kind
right.
of in that concept.
Dabu, you had some audio from one of the workers in that video, and he was saying that those tunnels are so radioactive. It's so bad that you would die in an hour.
Yeah, he did say that. Said that, the particles were so hot that you would die within an hour, and that's from somebody that was working on that area. So,
well, yeah. If you look back at Chernobyl, I mean, the workers were told that they had literally 30 seconds to run up, shovel a bunch of dirt, and then run back down, because after 30 seconds they would start tasting lead in their teeth. The radiation was so bad.
Jeez.
And their bodies would start to seize up. What happens is your nerves, again, playing with the electrons and the protons and the neutrons, everything starts to seize up and go all cuckoo. So, and then as soon as the DNA starts mutating, any kind of a mutagenic effect on the DNA, you start creating cells that are wrong. Basically, that's how a tumor is created, is that your body keeps replicating the wrong kind of cells. It's like you just gave it the wrong blueprint, and you're building a house all messed up. But
you might want to borrow Professor Mike for your channel, Dabu. He's a real smartass.
I appreciate his knowledge there. That's key information people need to hear and take in there. That's vital, especially when trying to prepare for something like this. That you need to know how it works and how it affects the body.
That's just it. Yeah, we've got a caller on line 2, Cowgirl Val in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She's actually in that area. Let's get her on the air. Hey, Val, how are things going in radioactive Idaho?
Thanks, Mike. Boy, this show couldn't be more tailor-made for what has been on my mind all this week. And Dabu, I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing. You are one of the voices in the wilderness right now. I remember I commented and said you were the lone wolf out there, and trust me, buddy, you are. So I want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you might be saving lives.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Right. That's the fight. Yeah, especially in a situation like this, it's so critical. It seems, I don't know, the whole to me, when it is exposed to air, where it could just come out there, I think there was definitely a big cover-up. And, like I was saying before, I have someone that reached out to me from up in that area and said everyone around Spokane has thyroid cancer. It's definitely something going on. And to me, that place needs shut down big time. But what's it going to take to have a place like Hanford shut down completely?
Well, where are they going to move it to? They're just going to create another Hanford.
Yeah, it's true. Especially when it's and now saying that it could have sat there for days since the 5th, which was very interesting. It could have sat there for days, man. And then they wanted to ring alarm bells when everybody was sitting there in their offices, when they've already walked into it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Val.
Yeah.
You're in the area. What are people saying around you? Are people talking about this, or are you the only one that knows because you're smart enough to listen to Dabu's channel?
Right, exactly. Thanks. Well, I'll tell you something. There's very little setup here. The lamestream media is doing minimal coverage. I call it a soft blackout. The last time they reported our local news, we have 3 local stations up here. The last time they reported it was 3 days ago today, and it was in the evening news. It wasn't necessarily considered a primetime news hour. And basically what they said is Hanford is shoveling dirt to cover the hole, and we're going to move on. It's all taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, the very next day, the very next morning after this went public, I found a really terrific gal on YouTube who was actually taking radiation levels in her area. And she was also, she also showed in her video what government officials were reporting in the Spokane area, which was 299 rads in Spokane.
What's normal?
Is that normal?
No, what's normal?
No, that sounds like a high. It sounds like a higher than normal reading. Maybe somewhere 150, 160. It depends on the city.
Are those gamma rays? Are those gamma rays alpha or beta? Do you guys know what kind of radiation particles? Yeah, because the gamma rays are the really, really bad ones. Those are the ones that can penetrate your body and stuff. I mean, alpha and beta, you kind of have to inhale it. So
right.
That's the gamma rays that you should really, really be worried about.
They call that a hot particle when you have to inhale it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I am not an expert, but tie it up, cowgirl. We got 90 seconds left here.
All right.
That's okay.
Just want to know that the reporting is minimal. I'm one of the voices that are sounding the alarm for people to be vigilant, to take care of themselves, because you're just not going to hear anything in mainstream. You're going to hear it through TRUDEAU. You're going to hear it through shows like yours, Mike, and we've got to be vigilant. Get the word out for people to just not let their guard down because their life depends upon it. This is a very serious situation, and we've got to perk up and listen.
Absolutely. Val, thanks for calling. It's great hearing from somebody that's in that area. We're going to let you go. Dabu, we've just a few seconds left. You got anything you want to say in closing?
I just want to give a shout-out to all the listeners out there and thank everybody that fights the good fight on the daily.
Dabu7, everybody, head over and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Don't be a moron. We'll be back right after this with Hour 2 and Mike D on Americanuck Radio.
Americanuck Radio.
News, opinion, and a little irreverence from both sides of the 49th parallel. This is Americanuck Radio with Mike Phillip.
To Americanuck Radio. This is your host, Mike Phillip, on the Genesis Communications Network. And the call-in line is 855-660-4261. Now, as I promised at the beginning of the show, CNN is actually reporting real news. They've broken a story that will surely bring down the Trump administration. Now, I know I've got your curiosity.
Now, in the Blue Room of the White House, the president sits down for a candlelit dinner with 3 correspondents from Time magazine, dining with the enemies of the people. Of course they're going to notice every little thing.
Every little thing. Nothing gets by these guys. Okay? Between Time magazine and CNN, I mean, you can't lose, right? You just can't lose.
With the salad course, Trump is served what appears to be Thousand Island dressing instead of the creamy vinaigrette for his guests.
What?
Whoa.
He gets Thousand Island and everybody else gets creamy vinaigrette.
God, it's Saladgate. Oh,
what a bastard. I was a Trump supporter, but now that I've heard about this, I just don't know. It's not fair, okay? What kind of a guy sits down with a big plate of Thousand Island salad dressing and serves everybody else creamy vinaigrette? And you know that he planned the menu with the cook, right? So, but you know what? What?
I was going to say, did you guys hear about when they investigated the joke about if Trump uses Russian salad dressing, automatically that means that there's collusion with Russians?
Yeah, I
Do you guys remember that?
But
they investigated it.
They fact-checked it, and they found out that Russian dressing was actually invented in, New Hampshire or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was invented in the States.
Well, this is going to bring down the administration, but I'm telling you what, it gets worse.
And then the gem. At the dessert course, he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with his chocolate cream pie instead of the single scoop for everyone else.
See, this is why I'm glad CNN is out there. Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream and everybody else gets 1.
Impeach.
Yep.
No, this is
Where's
communism.
Maxine Waters?
This is pure communism. I mean, the leader is getting more than everybody else. This is
exactly. Some animals are more equal than others.
Communism.
Yep, that's it.
But then again, if Bernie Sanders were in power, he would have 5 scoops of ice cream, and everybody else would have to pay extra.
Actually, what Bernie Sanders would do is he would be served no ice cream, but he would take half a scoop from everybody else at the table.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Good old Bernie 5 scoops Sanders, I tell you.
Tweeted one critic, so the whole dominance thing extends to desserts too?
God bless you, CNN. Wow. So, I mean, what would we do without this hard-hitting reporting?
Joe Biden has spoken as if he were a member of Ice Cream Addicts Anonymous.
My name is Joe Biden, and I love ice cream.
But Joe doesn't have an ice cream parlor named after him in Trump Tower, as the president does.
Oh, man, it just keeps getting worse.
Ice cream.
The president owns Trump Towers. He owned that before he was president.
Yeah, well, he only did that to get 2 scoops. I mean, that's why he's there. We figured it out.
If I own my own restaurant, can't I call it, Mike's Eatery or something?
Not if you're the president. It's a conflict of interest.
Oh, God. Wow. I'm going to have to donate my...
This is news, guys. This is news these days. This is what it's devolved into.
One more clip.
Apparently, this little nugget came out of this Time magazine piece where apparently the president gets 2 scoops, everyone else around the table gets 1, and no word if there were sprinkles.
Right. Well, the broader point here is that they were trying to make in the Time article is, the White House staff has adapted to Donald Trump's taste. So when everyone else gets water, he gets a Diet Coke. When everybody gets 1 scoop of ice cream, he gets 2. Look, my 2 children would gladly be president if they...
Oh, my God. Who the hell cares?
So this is why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is running for president.
I heard about that.
And I want to know. Scoops. I want to know if there was sprinkles. I want to know if there was whipped cream. Was there hot fudge? Did the press corps get any of that? I mean, come on. What's going on here? I mean, we got to get to the bottom of this. Seriously. But it just...
It's like complaining that somebody else at the table got 1 extra French fry. Like, are you supposed to sue the restaurant?
I always count my French fries just to make sure that nobody's getting shortchanged.
I think I should start doing that too.
You know what? Mess everybody up and cut them in half, and then claim that you got double, and then you can demand your meal for free.
If parents do that to kids, parents are compulsive liars. They trick kids.
Right, exactly. Hey, did you know Caitlyn Jenner's running for president too? Well, she's talking about it. Same with Oprah.
Did you say she? Did you misgender it?
I did.
You misgendered Bruce?
I've been culturally programmed. I now think that Caitlyn Jenner is a stunning woman.
Oh God! I still found that it was funny when we covered it on the Dr. Glidden show how Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year when it wasn't even quote unquote a woman for a year. It was only like 5 months into it and still had all his junk.
Well, that's when we found out about it. I mean, he probably felt like a woman for a lot longer period of time.
Well, God, I mean, I could understand based on the Kardashian show and stuff like that. I watched 3 episodes of that horrible crap, and I could see why you'd want to maybe slit your wrists, but I don't know about dressing like a woman.
Incidentally, guys, did you hear? I think I just saw this yesterday that the name Caitlyn, and because every year the Social Security Administration comes out and talks about what the popular names are and what people are naming their kids and stuff like that. And the name Caitlyn is like the main name, the one name that has dropped the most in popularity. People are automatically connecting it to the Caitlyn Jenner thing, but people just aren't naming their kids Caitlyn now.
Well, have you guys seen the lists of baby names? They're just like, for example, they have Aiden spelt in like 28 different ways as one of the more popular ones, and it's just you look at them and you're just like, I can't tell if this is German or Swedish or what, and it's like, no, it's English. I'm just trying to be having my kid unique. I want my kid to be special in school. And it's like,
what happened to good solid names like Walter or Alfred? You know what I'm saying?
Bob. But can these SJWs actually spell Bob? I don't know. Most of them drop out of school.
I think they can perform the action.
I'd be scared to have sex with an SJW because I'll get lectured, and then I'll have to learn about the patriarchy, and I'll have
then
to learn
ultimately
about
charged with rape.
Yeah, well, mid pump, right? Because don't forget, you can withdraw consent between the 13th and the 14th pump. So once you withdraw, how do you withdraw consent? I mean, I still don't get that. Like, you know, I withdraw my rights to get a ticket, officer. I don't want to participate. Like, how does that work? Yeah. I agreed to drive the car, so I'm going to have to agree to get the ticket and then go fight it in court. I don't know.
But that's how things are going, and people think this is normal, right? It's a blurring of every single line that is out there. By the way, I just went over to Drudge, and this CNN scoop more ice cream for Trump than others is like right near the top, and that's the problem.
This is Onion News level of crap. And I mean, this is an Onion News report basically from CNN.
I totally agree. I hear the music, and that means we're at the end of this segment. Mike D's going to come on to complain about Justin Trudeau, so this should be good. We'll be back. Stick around right after this.
Syntec Global XFT is a breakthrough product trusted around the world for over 20 years. Syntec Global XFT will maximize engine life and fuel economy, maximize horsepower and performance, and minimize emissions. XFT packs an incredible amount of benefits into one small concentrated dose and comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That's Syntec Global XFT. Put it to the test.
Head over to Americanuckradio.com now to get your extreme fuel treatment. That's Americanuckradio.com.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio, everybody. We are live, and we've got our contributing writer, Mike D. He's got a blog called PR for Canadians, and we frequently post his stuff over at our website, Americanuckradio.com. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, not bad. You, Mike?
I'm okay. So what's picking your brain, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you, Justin has got me again going, and Justin, I think, is probably getting everybody going. What Justin is wanting to do, and of course it's his minister, but I'm sure, as they say, he's behind everything. They want to do what they're referring to as reforming the standing orders of the House of Commons. And by that, a couple of simple things that Justin wants is, number one, Friday. No sense going to work on Friday, right? They need that long weekend. They work so hard when they're in there. And they want to have Friday off. But the other thing that's really driving me is this question period, where they want to change so that Justin only has to appear 1 day a week for 45 minutes in the House of Commons to answer questions. He doesn't want to be there all the time. He's obviously too busy jet-setting across the world that, you know, having to tie a man like him down is not right. So they're proposing that the rules be changed so that he only has to appear once a week for 45 minutes to answer questions, and it'll be his show. But the thing that Justin forgets is this is the people's house, okay? The House of Commons is where the government is held to account so everybody could see it. It's really the opposition time. The question period has nothing to do really with the government, except they're now going to be held accountable by the people. They're going to be grilled live where everybody can see it. And when you take that away, now all of a sudden you have no more accountability. It's almost like the Liberals are saying, look, things in the world only happen 1 day a week on Justin's schedule, and he'll appear to answer questions on it. The big problem comes is that anybody who has concerns or whatever, and you want to have your MP ask questions, which, by the way, 99.999% of the time, the Prime Minister will only answer questions from the Leader of the Opposition. He will not take it from regular members. So, but it's still the time for them to get up, ask questions. Here's what's going on. Here's what just happened in the world today. Can we get our country's position on it? Well, if the Prime Minister is there, where does it fall to? Does it fall to just any parliamentary secretary to stand up and say whatever? Now, I guess we could always take one of those cutouts of Justin that are going out there, and we can have that post.
To our American listening audience, Justin Trudeau had cardboard cutouts of himself sent all over the world.
Yeah, and the sad thing about that is the only other people I have ever known to have statues of themselves were like Kim Jong-un, Saddam Hussein, megalomaniacs, right? People. Well,
at least they had the made out of stone or marble. They didn't cheap out and have cardboard.
Well, but the other thing is maybe our one will have a little push button and we'll hear a lot of the come out.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I want everybody to know just what a master orator Justin Trudeau is. So what we did is we went back through several news clips and we found his most brilliant oration in the history of Canadian politics. Give this a listen, everybody.
You will be running against Stephen Harper in the next election.
I think so. We don't worry too much about it, though. It's very much on that we're
I could listen to this all day.
This needs to have a rap remix. You know what? I'll let the Conservatives figure that one out.
Somebody needs to make a rap remix of that.
Yeah, like the Bill O'Reilly one. We'll do it live. Put some techno music to it.
Yeah, that would go viral. That would go all over YouTube viral.
It would. But you know who does like Justin Trudeau?
Who?
It got real quiet there. Vidal Sassoon.
Like the shampoo line?
Yeah, I'm guessing. I don't know. Unless he gets more expensive stuff flown in from Italy or something.
Yeah, I think when he flies around the jet, he probably just picks up a few bottles here and there, right?
Yeah, that could be. He's probably got a full-time hairdresser that goes with him.
Well, the irony is when he went to the Aga Khan's island, the paper reported that they actually took it's like a tour guide, only it's a government tour official to, really it was a private island and you took a tour guide? Like where you're looking at different sand pebbles,
Okay.
But anyway, to jump back on this question period, it really has me because, I watch Question Period. I try to watch it every day, and I got to tell you, right now, they've been grilling the Prime Minister on, have you met with the Ethics Commissioner? And he doesn't answer, right? The fact that he doesn't answer, people say, well, he's not answering anyway. But that's okay because it shows Canadians what our leader really thinks of us when he stands in the House of Commons, asks a direct question, did you or did you not meet with the Ethics Commissioner? And he doesn't answer it. Okay, there's a lot to be said for what he doesn't say. And if the government is allowed to get away with this, turn around, whittle down the House of Commons sitting for 4 days a week, turn around now the Prime Minister only has to show up 1 day a week for 45 minutes, democracy really is done because now he's no longer accountable. Nobody could ask him questions. Issues that come up, he can't be questioned on. But I'm convinced that this is deeper than just him not wanting to be there. This is about controlling the message. They want to control the message. They want to control everything. So everything is fine. You know what? You guys are the problem, and leave us alone. But I think one of the big problems in all this is our media. The media isn't covering it. The media isn't out there saying, look at what they're trying to do. They're trying to take away accountability to the people. But the media they're silent on it. They're saying nothing about it. They're not out there saying, this is wrong. The Prime Minister needs to be accountable. He needs to be seen. He needs to be visible, not jet setting. Like we hear of all his jet settings, and he's taking pictures and selfies everywhere. You know what? We want to see him in the House of Commons. We want to hear him ask a tough question. And if he chooses not to answer them the way he has been, we'll remember that on Election Day. But at least we'll have the truth there. But there's a big gathering of the media behind him to shield him, to protect him, because they want to keep him there. He's a darling of the media, right? But then again,
absolutely.
CBC, like, what do you expect from the CBC, right? They have to do it, or else funding just gets cut off. But, you know, I think Canadians should really be alarmed. I think Canadians need to contact their MPs. I know some of the MPs from out west there, they've been great on it, and they've been fighting it and saying, you know, like, this is wrong. Like, Canadians deserve, you know, we elected you to go to work.
We deserve better, and people voted for Trudeau not because of any kind of policy issues, but because he's cute and it'll be kooky and fun. Let's go vote for Justin Trudeau. Mike and Super Don with Mike D. A lot of mics around here. We'll be back right after this.
There's no way back. And that is how the game begins. It's a disturbing one called the Blue Whale Challenge that has teens completing a number of tasks over a 50-day period. The last one, to kill yourself. This is the newest twist to suicide pacts that are being shared amongst vulnerable teens online.
So we've been kind of joking around a lot today, but I want to take a little bit more serious turn as to what's happening with kids online, the Blue Whale game. Don, can you give us a little bit of a cap here? Or a little
Dude,
bit
this
of
sounds like something from a Saw movie, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I want to play a game.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess I'd never heard of this until just recently, but there's this guy, this Philip Budaikin?
Yeah, he's Russian.
Out of Russia. And he somehow came up with this idea to kind of infiltrate social media and take advantage of vulnerable girls and get them involved in this real weird kind of brainwashing thing where basically the game is, and it's called Blue Whale, and it involves taking these vulnerable teenagers over a period of 50 days, and he gets them to do like all these weird tasks like watching scary movies and becoming sleep deprived, and then at the end of the 50 days, after they've done all these things and they've done like these self-harming things where they cut like the shape of a whale into their arm and all this stuff, at the end of this, he's got them so screwed up mentally that in order to finish the game, you have to kill yourself and commit suicide. And apparently he has succeeded, and they're saying at least 16 schoolgirls that he convinced to kill themselves playing this Blue Whale game.
Unreal. Let's play another clip here.
Just last month, authorities in France put out a public safety alert for parents to pay attention to warning signs if your child is acting strangely.
I find that very disturbing. We know that youth is a time when we're trying to get our identity established and try to find our crowd of people, but it becomes very worrisome when people that have behaviors that are dangerous find one another and support one another in activities that are not healthy.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you know, people 12 to 17 years old normally are not very on the ball in the first place. You know what I'm saying? But you know, when I was a kid, somebody in Russia couldn't talk to me. You know what I mean? You had to phone them. You had to phone them, and the long-distance charges would have killed you. So, I mean, these are vulnerable people in the first place. And actually, if you look at the articles that we were able to pull up on this, it turns out that this guy is kind of a damaged human being himself. It's like damaged people damaging people, and you get this perfect storm of screwed up people getting together, and it inevitably, I don't know why I couldn't say that, it gets worse. right? So, I mean, when he was a kid, his mother would make him breakfast and leave the house at 5 o'clock in the morning and then come home late at night and give him dinner and then go to sleep, and same thing. So he's alone by himself in isolation with a laptop every day. And he thought that there was absolutely nothing wrong with this whatsoever.
Tasks include self-mutilation, cutting your arm in the form of a whale, because of the belief that blue whales voluntarily wash up on beaches to die. In Russia, the deaths of 130 teenagers, including these 2 young girls who fell to their deaths after jumping from an apartment building and from a commuter train, are being linked to the blue whale challenge, though these reports have not been confirmed.
So they're not confirmed, but they've, I mean, the police could obviously take a suicide investigation and look at what these girls were doing online and look at the whole chat, the whole process of what was going on right up till their death, and I'm guessing that that's what happened. So, and you see that he wasn't targeting 45-year-old women, right? No, it was
these were vulnerable young teenage girls. And, in reading this and learning about this guy, I just really get the impression he reminds me of like one of those Charles Manson type of guys, or he had all the followers, or like a cult leader type thing, where he has that ability to be able to manipulate people's emotions and thoughts and things. And he literally, through the process of putting the rules of this game together, mapped out a way for to be able to take somebody who may be already vulnerable to a certain extent and wear them down, right? Make them more susceptible, more manipulative, or capable of being manipulated. And I mean, the guy's, he's a psychopath. I mean, the guy is just he's in jail. Get this, he's in jail, and he's receiving love letters from girls that say that they're in love with him. I mean, he has managed to get into the minds of these girls all over the place. That he's a dangerous guy.
And the prison said that they're investigating a way to find a loophole in a law that says that they want to try and prevent him from having outside contact, but the law in the jail say that they can't actually stop him from contacting these 15-year-olds. And he called it social cleansing.
Yeah.
He called it social cleansing. And that's a very eugenicist term.
Yep.
Okay, that's a very old term. And the fact that he's calling it social cleansing, that just gives me all kinds of things that date back to the origins of Canada and the U.S. and the Nazi regime and all these different people who followed the eugenics code, like the British. So the fact that this kid's really preaching eugenics on his own little social app, he's just
taking it into his own hands.
It's disgusting. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yep. And he says, he thought it was great. He's like, I'm doing the world a favor. This is human garbage I'm getting rid of. And they want to die. So what's the big dealio? That was his attitude. And you see that a lot when you have a serial killer or something, where women they'll get piles of mail from women wanting to marry them. I remember reading about this when I was a kid, where you would have some guy that went and killed a bunch of people, and prison officials were saying that they couldn't keep up with the fan mail. And so what is it with women? They want to be empowered and all this stuff, but then at the same time, they want to get together with this bad boy that most likely will kill them. It's a weird psychology there. Mike?
The problem with it is, okay, there's multiple different factors that go into it. There is a bit of neuro-linguistic programming that he uses. I looked over some of the stuff just on the commercial, and some of the ways that he was tricking these people into convincing them that psychologically they want to kill themselves. They almost had this desire to beat the game just to quote-unquote fit in. And with that, one of the prices is suicide. Now, I mean, kids are being taught even in the schools that life sucks. Okay, yep. So I could see how he would have all these, people signing up for it, because I've talked to a lot of teenagers in shopping malls and random places, and it's about, just random conversations that'll show up at, let's say, like at a grocery store. A few days ago, there's a kid who was athletic. He was talking about painkillers and stuff, and my buddy Pat and I, we started talking to him and stuff. Had a little bit of an email conversation, telling him which painkillers I would advise against him taking and stuff, and it broke down into the whole. He's like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of this pain and stuff, and I'm actually sick of life in general. And I was like, how does this happen? Like, there is a major psychological aspect to it, but I don't know exactly where it's coming from right now. So he's all athletic and stuff, and he's suicidal at the same time. So it's.
Well, it could be that he had a mineral deficiency that was screwing with his blood sugar and causing him depression. I mean, I hear the music, and that means we're done with this segment, but you got to watch what your kids are doing online, because they could be talking to some creepy idiot in Russia that thinks he's doing the world a favor by taking away the life of your precious little girl. Mike, and Super Don on Americanuck Radio will be back after this.
Syntec Global XFT is a breakthrough product trusted around the world for over 20 years. Syntec Global XFT will maximize engine life and fuel economy, maximize horsepower and performance, and minimize emissions. XFT packs an incredible amount of benefits into one small concentrated dose and comes with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That's Syntec Global XFT. Put it to the test.
Head over to Americanuckradio.com now to get your extreme fuel treatment. That's Americanuckradio.com.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio. Really quick, I just want to tell you a little story here. So we've been pushing this extreme fuel treatment for quite a while now. And listen, I got a story for you, okay? I know a guy that drives to Edmonton and back from Camrose, where I live. Round trip, that's 150 kilometers. I gave him a couple of packets of 10 milliliters of the extreme fuel treatment to add 10 milliliters per tank of fuel. Now listen, by the third tank, this guy is getting an extra 300 kilometers per tank. 300 kilometers per tank with 10 milliliters. We're talking a tablespoon of this stuff in a tank of gas. If you want to bitch about the carbon tax, go ahead. It's not going anywhere. You got to figure out solutions. Well, I'm telling you right now, our Facebook page is XFT Canada. Go and check it out. You could save a huge amount of money if you're a transport company. We're talking like $500,000 a year in savings. Quit screwing around. Hey, Don, did you know that Canada has a diabetes charter?
Why?
Well, it tells you at diabetes.ca. The Diabetes Charter for Canada, or as it's known in official circles, the Charter, clearly outlines the support Canadians with diabetes need to live to their full potential. Commitments within the Charter address the unique needs of people living with diabetes in Canada. And then it goes through the unique needs, talks about we are home to immigrants from populations at higher risk of type 2 diabetes. The three largest visible minorities, South Asians, Chinese, and blacks, account for 61.3% of the total visible minority population. And it turns out that they tend to have more diabetes. So, why? I don't know. Like, I have my theories. Yeah, exactly. Aboriginals, higher rates of diabetes, and I hate that word, aboriginal. It sounds like abnormal.
You guys have something called the Aboriginal Diabetes Initiative.
Yes, we do.
Why?
I don't know. It's not working.
Listen, I am looking at this whole charter thing here, okay? And first off, I don't understand, why do you have a charter for do you have a charter for every other chronic disease known to man in Canada? Why is there one about diabetes? But maybe you do. I don't know.
Yes, we have the Constitution of Atrial Fibrillation.
Oh, okay.
And the Bill of Rights of Osteoarthritis. And
okay, all right. I know Canada's different than here. I don't think we have
I'm making
like a
it up, but they are
Bill
too.
of Rights down here.
Canada does have a certain way of manipulating certain illnesses. So the way that it works in Canada is if you have something that's labeled as a quote-unquote society, so the Canadian Cancer Society, the Diabetes Society, a Children's AIDS Society, anything that has the word society listed on it gives them powers that actually supersede government. So basically they operate above the law. And if you look at the Canadian Cancer Society, for example, they dictate to the government what the rules are about cancer. Okay, it's a way to generate profits, and I mean, as we were talking about, the actual meaning of charter is effectively creating a legal entity out of a business, out of a corporation, right? So it's basically fascism. As soon as
you just hit on it, the business of diabetes, right?
Exactly. As soon as you have something that can create profit that the government can benefit from, then what happens is they will try to classify it with a charter. They'll try and make it into a legal entity. And it's simply a way to control people. There's so much profit to be had from diabetes, and it's so easy to get rid of type 2 diabetes. They're trying to even create something called type 3 diabetes. They just don't know how they're going to actually classify it. This is what the World Health Organization and the NHS, they both, the NHS for England, I believe, they both said that they want to create something, a new term called type 3 diabetes. They're just working on ways to classify it. They want to make a new illness. This was like 3 years ago they stated that. So I mean, it's all about profit. It's all about, segregation, actually. Segregation and chronic illnesses too. What they do is they convince you that you are a diabetic, you are depressed, you are this. They want to make you own it. Okay, it's another form of neurolinguistic programming. They want you to own the illness so that you cannot get rid of the illness. It's like you take that in, and you and the illness become one.
And they constantly drill it into your head that there's no cure.
Not to want to get rid of it, because you get the hat and the shirt, and you get the march in the parade
and the fun run
and all of that stuff. It's like you're part of a club now, right?
And look at what they say. They say they are raising awareness. All of these fundraisers.
Yeah, I've always thought that word is stupid. Like breast cancer awareness. Who's not aware of breast cancer?
Exactly.
At this point, right? We're all aware of it. What does that do? What does that solve by being aware?
Yeah, you got the Canadian Cancer Society made $21.2 billion over the course of 8 years. Okay, from donations due to their walk for the cure. And then, as Mike and I discussed on another show that we used to host, the term "for the cure" is actually a patented term. So anything that's for the cure has nothing to do with cures.
Well, and here's the thing. They like to tell everybody that we've got free healthcare in Canada, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. The Fraser Institute published a document where they figured it out that your average family of 3 pays approximately $12,000 a year. So that's $1,000 a month in healthcare fees. But the reason that you don't know how much you're paying is because it's through regular taxes in general revenue. So it's through the income tax, it's through cigarette and alcohol tax, it's through EI, it's through the Canadian pension plan. And so they take it out of that. And so because you don't pay at the point of service, when you go to the walk-in clinic, everybody thinks it's free, and so they absolutely abuse it. Every time they get a little sniffle or sneeze, a lot of people go running to their doctor, and it's kind of like a day out for them. And here's the deal. You get to go see the doctor. He's not going to do anything but write you a prescription for metformin or something like that, which you've got to pay for. But if you need a lumberjack to cut your foot off, don't worry, they've got that covered.
Yep, it's really, really, really messed up as well. If you look at the way that the medical doctors work in socialized medicine, they only actually legally have to see you for 7 minutes in order for, let's say, in Ontario, the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, the doctors or the hospital or the institute that they work for will bill OHIP, the insurance plan. They'll bill them for 1 hour for 7 minutes. Okay, Absolutely. As soon as they reach that 7-minute buffer, they boot you out after you just waited, 10 hours in the emergency room. Like I had mentioned, I got stabbed in the arm and I was bleeding, and it took them 3.5 hours, and eventually I had to do my own stitches.
Right.
Because I was sitting there waiting and I'm bleeding all over the floor. So, 7 minutes and they bill for an hour.
We've gone through the problem. Now let's talk about solutions. Now, it's illegal in Canada to say that anything can cure diabetes or any other disease for that matter unless it's a drug. You can't say it. But what you can do is you can support and promote the body's ability to regulate blood sugar levels. And I've seen this a million times. Now, back in 1957, Dr. Walter Martz figured out that you could manipulate blood sugar levels with the mineral chromium. Chromium and vanadium are essential minerals to the body to support and promote. Notice I did not say cure diabetes. They got to give it a name. Like, you can't give somebody they got to make it a thing. Like, you could give somebody a box of diabetes, or, somebody sneezed on a bus and I caught diabetes. No, it's not how it works. It's not a real thing. It's a condition due to a breakdown and a mineral deficiency. So they're right. There is no cure for diabetes. It's a play on words. But I'll tell you what, blood sugar can be manipulated with chromium and vanadium. If you head over to Americanuckradio.com and click on the store button, you can see a product called Sweeties. And if you take one bottle per 100 pounds of body weight per day, you are able to regulate blood sugar. And I'll tell you what, people, I've used that stuff a million times with so many people that I can't even count them all. I hear the music, and that means we're out of business till next Saturday. Everybody have a great weekend. If you want to reach out to us and have a conversation, Americanuckradio@gmail.com or the contact button at Americanuckradio.com. Take care of each other and yourself in the words of the great Jerry Springer. We'll be back Saturday.